welcome back to What She Said. First a song and now a book. The heroic story of two-time Olympia equestrian athlete Jessica Phoenix is now being told through the eyes of her sister. And joining us in studio is the author of Rise, the Jessica Phoenix story, Julie Fitzgerald. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So for people who may not know the story, can you tell us what happened to Jessica? And that's what inspired the whole Rise movement.
Yes. Well, actually, Jessica and I had talked about doing this book for many, many years, but it was after the Rio Olympics that we decided we wanted to tell her story, and we wanted to do so and focus on the last 10 years of obstacles that she's faced and overcome to get to where she is today. And the biggest one of those obstacles we felt was her near fatal accident in New Jersey. She was at a show and her horse flipped over a jump, and she was basically crushed underneath the horse. And she ended up overcoming many, many injuries from that within a very short time period. And she went to the Pan Am Games in Toronto and won a silver medal. So it was pretty inspiring.
Well, I mean, those injuries, as you said, she was pretty much crushed. 3 broken ribs, a broken clavicle, a broken sacrum, damage to her liver.
Yes.
And yet, just to get back on the horse is one thing, but to actually succeed like that is amazing.
It really astounded doctors in particular who said it wasn't possible. It astounded her family, her friends. I mean, none of us actually thought she would be recovered in time to compete at the Pan Ams. And frankly, I don't know that myself or my mom or dad even wanted her to at that point, because she had overcome so much, and she had a 3-month-old baby at the time. So she had a lot on her plate. But, you know, God's hand came down and really orchestrated how all of that played out, and it was a miracle. There was no explaining it.
You mentioned this was perhaps the most dramatic event, but I know that she also had to fight to compete.
Yes, that is a chapter in the book. That was for Rio. So she had spent so much time competing and getting her horses really ready and qualified. They go through a rigorous eventing competition schedule to qualify, and she had done that and qualified 4 horses, was very certain she'd be on the team, and unfortunately that wasn't the case originally. And then she had a tough decision to make, which was, does she appeal the decision and at the risk of looking like she had sour grapes, or does she just, take it and just move on? And she ended up deciding to appeal because she felt that the truth had not been told and a disservice had been done to her. So she told the truth. She went to an arbitration hearing, and it had just all played out on the courtroom floor, and she was appointed to the team.
You talked about writing the book, you say. What was the trigger that made you say, okay, I'm now sitting down?
It's a great question. So we talked about it for years and years. Being her sister and her best friend, I've been privy to so much of the backstory of everything that she's gone through. But I think it was after the Rio Olympics. She had now been to 2 Olympic Games. She'd won Pan Am medals in every color. She'd had a near-fatal injury. She had been to court to win her rightful spot on the Olympic team. We're like, you know what? Now's the time. This is enough material for our first book, at least.
Well, how long, witnessing everything firsthand, being there, and as you mentioned before, your family wasn't sure they even wanted her to go ahead and compete. How long did it take you to write the book when you started to go through it? You must have been formulating things in your mind as you went.
Yes, I had a notepad beside my bed because, of course, as soon as you go to sleep, you think, oh, wait, I need to write that down. But it was actually a very quick process. I started interviewing in January of 2017, and we had the final draft August 31st.
That is a fast process.
So I really worked my butt off on that, and we interviewed a lot of people. Well, I interviewed a lot of people, and we went through quite a few drafts, and it all came together fairly quickly.
Now, how involved was she in that? Did she read it as you went along, or did she read it when it was done?
She read it when it was done. So she let me just run with it. I came up with a chapter outline. She was happy with that. And then I just went with it and I picked the people who I wanted to interview and really get their perspective of what sets her apart and what makes her unique and inspiring. And we just went from there. So once I had that first draft done and I felt like, okay, this is the real shape of the book, I let her read it at that point.
But you say this is a blueprint. It's not just her story. Her story highlights what you call really a blueprint that all of us can use.
Yes. So Jessica is unique in that she's very inspiring and encouraging to those people who are around her. So she teaches many, many clinics every year. She talks at schools. She really puts herself out there and tries to explain to people about what it's like to live your passion. And I think that is what's so inspiring, is that when you find what you love to do, it doesn't feel like work. Like you are happy to do that every day from when you wake up in the morning till you go to bed at night. And it's not going to be easy. You're going to face many, many obstacles on the path. But overcoming those obstacles and having faith in yourself and having faith in your dream is really what it's all about. So I hope it does inspire and encourage others to do that.
You're her sister, and you said you're your best friends
Yes.
as well. Was there anything that you learned about your sister while writing the book that you didn't know before?
Yes. So Jessica's a very private person. She's not very emotional, all of those things I know, but I had always assumed that everything that she's been through, she must look back and think about it and contemplate it at different times in her life. And I discovered that when she read the book, that's the first time she's ever stopped and taken stock of everything she's overcome and everything she's faced. So as a writer, they're always looking forward and riding forward, and that's how she lives her life. She does not look back and go over things in her mind. She works through them, conquers them, and moves on. So it was interesting to know that the book was the first time she'd ever looked back and taken stock of everything she's done.
It's really quite amazing. Do you think most people look back and look at what their legacy might be, good or bad?
Well, I know I am an overthinker. I go over everything in my mind. Like Jessica and I are opposites. And so I think most people think about things and go over them. Yes.
In terms of, well, I mean, I think I go over things and think, did I do the right thing? Did I not do the right
Yes.
thing? But then once I've sort of hashed it out a little bit, then I forget about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't look back on my whole life and go, this is what it looks like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's in situations. Once you have it sorted out in your mind, you move on.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So what do you hope people learn from her story?
I hope they learn that life is not easy, but you can overcome obstacles when they come at you. So things may not come to you handed on a silver plate, but that doesn't mean it's not worth the fight to go for it if that's your dream and if that's what you feel like you are meant to do.
Absolutely. So how do people get the book? Where can they get the book?
So the book is on Kindle, it's on Kobo. We have it at select retailers, including Blue Heron Books in Uxbridge, Red Scarf Equestrian in Newmarket, Select Chapters Indigo, and it's also online at roar-group.com.
Right. It's a Roar Publishing.
It's a
Roar
absolutely.
Publishing. We should know
That's
that.
right.
Do you have plans to do any more writing now that this has started?
Yes, so our next plan is to do a children's series, and each book will be based on one of Jessica's horses.
Oh.
So they all have their own unique quirks and personalities, so each book will detail one of her horses.
Oh, that's so great. How many
Yeah.
horses does she have?
She has many, but I think we're going to narrow it down to about 6.
Well, I'm going to put a reserve bid on that because I don't think there's a child alive who doesn't fall in love with horses at some stage in their life.
I agree.
Because they're wondrous animals.
They absolutely are.
But it takes skill to ride them.
Yes.
Well, Julie Fitzgerald, thank you very much for joining us today here at What She Said Talk.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is What She Said on 105.9 The Region, and we'll be right back.
What she said, she's magical, mystical, a powerful wonder girl.